So Tristan Matthew here, and so our topic today is bring your enterprise-wide cloud data strategy and workflow automation to life with Lakehouse and Power Platform. So these two things are like in the bleeding edge of technology, in the early stages of adoption in businesses. A lot of the solutions that are being built are early adopters. There are some cool things that we have been building, but still in an early stage of what is called as the Lakehouse paradigm, as well as the no code. I wouldn't say it's no code; it's low code application development. So to make application development as easy as Excel, right? So that's a goal. So hey, myself, Tristan Matthew, I'm the founder CEO of the company. We are based in Beaverton. Currently, we have about 20, 25 people in the company. We're a product company. We have a customer data platform. And I took the liberty to put this logo out there, and we are on the Timbers Providence Stadium. They're opening up next month, so we'll be able to go to a live game next month. So if you guys are Timbers fans, so you'll be seeing our trust banner there. This is going to be SkyPoint Cloud with customer data platform on it. It's on the right side, right next to, we are replacing, I think, New Relic or something. And I have Sandeep, he leads our engineering team on the data side, and I have Jay, who is in our product team. Jay has become a master of Power Platform, and we have been really figuring out a way that we can support him because he goes really fast. So we are trying to keep up the data side to keep up with Power Platforms and what it can do, right? So any questions before I get started?
When are you going to raffle off Timbers tickets?
Oh man, I totally would. We can do it for the next one because they are the next. They're going to start the preseason, right? And that's where it is. But you still need a mask and things like that to go in. So the announcement is coming. I think it is like 30% or 40% of the stadium. So it's outdoors, to be honest. Providence Park is, and then. I think you have, if you're vaccinated, you have special passes, I guess. I don't know. I think they could get free. I think healthcare workers have some free things going on, so they will get some benefit. But who knows, from a month from now, the prevalence of the disease is very low in the, the vulnerable population, which is 65 and older. So they might make changes to, what we all can do, I guess, most people. So, yeah, it's going to be fun. So we are very thrilled and excited about it. And Timbers is also a customer of SkyPoint. So they run on our platform. They actually use Power Platform. They are also on Delta. And there was league-wide training on Power BI and Power Platform. So Portland Trailblazers, Clippers, all of these teams are on Azure and Office 365. Some on Dynamics 365, but majority of them are using Azure and Power Platform, Power BI. Yeah, Power BI has quite a lot of fans in the league. Okay, so I tested on all three people here, so we'll go to the next slide. So an introduction. So I kind of gave that already. So why in the world we should do this, right? So that's a problem statement. The third is what we call it as a Lakehouse architecture. Delta Lake and Databricks. Even though Databricks is the company who is commercially making Delta architecture available, they are not the only company. So there is, it's an open source effort. So there is multiple companies offering the solution. So for this presentation, we'll be focusing only on Databricks to save time. Then I will touch on Microsoft's common data model, and we built our entire product on CDM from the get-go. So we use Delta as our storage layer and CDM as our schema layer. So CDM is underlying structure for Power Platform in general. It could be Dataverse. And I don't know if you guys were in Ignite, there is PowerFX, which is the new language, right? It's a declarative language to develop applications. So there's a lot of cool things really happening in the CDM world and how it's extended. Then we'll do a demo of journey of an enterprise customer data in the Lakehouse. So we are a customer data company. That's what we do. We house customer data, which is sensitive information, people's names, phone numbers, email addresses, what they did. Then we do a lot of AI and BI on it and make things really wonderful for managing customer data so that you remove duplicates. Every business you walk in, they talk about, I can't trust my customer data because we have redundancies in there and it's the wrong place. I don't even know this customer's email is valid, all kinds of stuff, right? What are the relationship between the customers? And so we have a graph-based representation of data in the Lakehouse. So now we'll open up to Q&A. All right. So this is a foundational problem that we've been solving. If you walk into a company, they have all kinds of different applications, including data warehouses, where the data, especially customer data, is fragmented all over the place. And then the next element of it is something called privacy. There are privacy laws all over the United States now. Many states have this. So you have to preserve, erase, manage customer data. It's a must. It's not optional. So that forces a lot of management overhead. If you have data, how do you manage it? How do you make it effective? How make sure you're complying with the data, privacy laws? The third is data sharing mandates. SkyPoint operates in two different industries, healthcare and consumer. Consumer meaning people who do direct-to-consumer businesses, whether it could be a Portland Timbers or Blue Star Donuts or a Bamboo Sushi. So these are all our customers. They all use our product. So behind the scenes. They all have to comply with privacy laws, but also they have to share data. They have to share data with their partners, could be a Grubhub or a Postmate, or they have to share in the healthcare space, payers and providers have to share data. There is a CMS mandate around it. So you should be able to access data as a patient. So we facilitate that capability around the data sharing. And the third is COVID-19 digital acceleration, because we are, as you know, Microsoft's fundamental concept around Power BI and Power Platform in general is citizen developers or people who are not coders by profession, writing code in C# or Python or something like that, should be able to build applications and use data, right? So most of the applications are relying, if you build an application that relies on good quality data, you can automate business processes. So Power Platform allows you to build applications and automate workflows and create virtual agents, integrated to teams. All of these things can be done with citizen developers, so you don't need a professional coding exercise. And the second aspect of it is citizen developers do understand the business much better than a professional developer, quite a lot. So those are all the fundamental problems around it, and how we solve this problem is this. So as you can see, we import data from all the different sources, we clean it up, unify it under a single infrastructure that's a CDM and Delta Lakehouse focus. And then we can export that data, clean data, to Snowflake or whether it could be Google Ads, Salesforce, privacy portal, custom applications, and all that. And this is a view of a unified patient record. So for healthcare, so we pull in data from EHRs, claims, labs, and all of that, and create this. And these applications that you can see, these are all these things can be Power Apps, could be a Power Virtual Agent. If you're doing Teams, you can do a virtual visit. So a lot of the applications need to rely on clean, organized data. So we have this graph thing going on for a reason. So because we need to know if somebody is, are these two people living in the same household? Do they work in the same company? Or what are the socioeconomic factors? Do they live in the same neighborhood? Or all of those kinds of things. So that graph representation is individual patient plus how they're related to others. So the value of data is one part of it. And the second is how do you activate it or create value from it? That is where the Power Platform comes in. Okay. Any questions here? Feel free to chime in and ask questions or put it in the chat. I'll try to respond to it. So I'll give a quick overview / history. We all know this. So you have data sitting somewhere, you ETL it, put it in a data warehouse, and then you put a tool on top of it, whether it could be Tableau or Power BI or Excel, where you can actually create dashboards, right? Fairly straightforward process. Worked on SQL. There wasn't any true support for machine learning workloads, so that was the limitations, and they were proprietary. This is, think about a data warehouse like Oracle, SQL Server, whatnot, right? So what happened is the big data world evolved, and they said we had to work without schemas. We should be flexible enough to do these kinds of things, and we need something different. Then it came what's called a data lake, which you can stick anything into this data lake, and you can ETL stuff in, and then create machine learning models, and that's wonderful. The problem here is almost non-existent support for BI, which means citizen developers really don't know how to access this thing. The second, a lot of data lakes became data swamps, means it went out of control. I'm pretty sure in your companies you have this data lake typically is in Amazon S3 or AWS Gen 2 or Google Cloud Storage, or it's low-cost storage. It had its own benefits. It can store large amounts of data, unstructured data like images, videos, all kinds of stuff. And it had serious drawbacks. It kind of started happening about 10 years ago, and people have learned from it. It's like, okay, now this doesn't by itself doesn't solve all the problems, and there was a movement to move data warehouse into data lake or shut down data warehouses, and didn't go anywhere. So, and now most companies end up with this, where you have BI coming from data warehouses, whether there could be Snowflake or SQL, Synapse Analytics, or Oracle, whatever those are. And then you have to maintain a data lake for all of your unstructured data and semi-structured data, then so you can build machine learning algorithms on top of it. So you could argue that a Snowflake can do these two, but we can get into those technical details later. But fundamentally, how you manage semi-structured data, like also streaming data, how for example, clickstream is coming in, data is coming in from IoT devices. How do you manage those kinds of data? So this is becoming today's hybrid stack. So what ended up happening is you have data coming in, you get into a data lake, then you copy it over to another data warehouse or other places. Then you have multiple copies of this data, same data sitting in multiple places. You create inconsistencies. It's become very costly. You have to run two different systems. And then machine learning runs on Azure Machine Learning or MLflow and whatnot. And then you have your BI tools operate on the warehouse, which is Power BI, and you can actually think of Power Automate going into this as well. All right, so what is a Delta Lake or Lakehouse paradigm? Delta Lake is an open source storage layer. It's on top of a data lake like S3 or ADLS that brings ACID transactions to big data workloads. So think of SQL Server like ACID transaction. It also supports schema enforcement and evolution, which means you can time travel, you can go back in time, you can do merges, you can update, delete. It provides full CRUD operations. It also provides you real-time query execution and improved performance on batch jobs, and also allows you to do streaming data ingestion. So all three, essentially, it's a think of it as data warehouse and data lake coming together into one, with the underlying storage layer of a separation of compute and storage, and the underlying storage layer is Parquet based, but you can run it in a blob storage underneath. So this is the new paradigm. You'll see a lot of terms here that will all connect to Databricks. This infrastructure, you can run it on Azure Synapse now. So they're getting more support for Lakehouse right now, but right now, currently we run in SkyPoint, we run the Lakehouse on Databricks. So as you can see, all raw data is ingested into this. And for BI, we use Power BI and Power Automate. I'll kind of touch on that. So SQL Analytics is an engine that connects to Lakehouse. There's only a single copy of data that is stored here. And we have something called a persistent ID generation for one of our main entities called profile, which we do a bunch of clustering and things like that to maintain consistency over a period of time. But each of the entities are stored as tables. If you are familiar with the Dataverse or Power Platform, the Microsoft changed the term entity to tables, and these tables are called delta tables. So these entities are indexed, and for faster queries. So if you're sitting in Power Platform, you can click and query this thing just like a table. The data comes from Delta, and the performance is incredible. So we have loaded it up with 100 million rows into a single Delta Lake table. It works like a SQL Server. So you can interact with it, write, read, and still on top of it, you can build data science AI models on top of it too. So we use Power in Power Platform. We use the AI models. We use Azure Machine Learning, all of this, and then it supports real-time data for our applications as well. So this is a fairly high-level overview of it. So as you go down, so I think here, so it's a combination of these two. So the data lake and the warehouse together. So I think I have a couple of slides later, shows the details of it. Sorry, this is kind of a elaborate diagram of how we are using Power BI and Power Platform on the Lakehouse. So think of this whole box as the Lakehouse. So this Databricks engine or Synapse SQL on Demand, all of the tables are stored here in ADLS Gen 2. It's in Parquet. It's a very optimized Parquet. And then we have Databricks with something called Delta Engine, and does a lot of optimization. You don't necessarily need Delta Engine for Databricks. Now, Databricks 8.0, they've made Delta as their standard storage format. So essentially, Databricks is transforming themselves to be from just a machine learning company to becoming a database company with Delta. So Lakehouse is their they're basically focusing the entire company on the Lakehouse, and they are competing with the likes of Snowflake quite a lot, and then to a degree Synapse, and the traditional data warehouse tools. So what we have done is we have this thing sitting in ADLS Gen 2, optimized in Delta. We are using this right now in production. Synapse is in POC. We wrote a Python-based, fairly simple Azure Function Service, which exposes an API, and then we have a Power BI connector and a Power Platform connector, and it connects to things. And voila, things work magically. You can do all these interactions with it, with your enterprise data that is coming in. Even though there's a bunch of layers in it, from a citizen developer, all they need to worry about is go to so you can actually see SkyPoint's Power Platform connector, add the connector, you're ready to go. And also, Power BI can directly connect with Databricks and Delta. I am not sure about Power Automate yet, but Power BI and Tableau, both of them can connect through ODBC. I think Power Automate, Power Apps, Logic Apps, the Power Platform world also can do the same thing. But we create a little more cleaner interface to enforce some security aspects of the product that we have as a multi-tenant SaaS company. But ODBC or JDBC connection is also possible. So this is about common data model. Entire Power Platform relies on it. I think most people are aware of this. Feel free to look this up. There are entities, they're called tables, attributes, there are columns, and we do semantic metadata, which means labeling data for various different purposes. Like, for example, if a column is email address or first name, so we have those kind of PII standardization using metadata. And also, once data come from different places, you have to establish relationships. Think of it as the ER diagram, and then adding metadata on top of that to make it more friendly for data scientists. And also it helps with BI as well to create a good standard around it. Microsoft has done a lot of work in this, and also they have published this entire thing in GitHub, so it's fully open sourced. Anybody could use it. Everything is a standard right now. The benefits of CDM, I don't have to repeat this for this group. Essentially, the common data model can be used in many applications right now. That includes Dataverse, Dynamics, Power Platform. I also saw an integration in Ignite where Teams was kind of integrated into Dynamics. So where you could have a conversation about a customer in Teams sitting in Dynamics. So you can bring in, so it's a true collaboration of, Teams into the platform. So we also, at SkyPoint, we have a connector into Teams as well. We are looking at Teams as an alternative to a browser. I think I spend probably 50% of my time on Teams, and the other 50% probably on Outlook and the browser, right? So essentially, Teams has been replacing the browser for various purposes already. It is integrated into SharePoint and all that. So we could see more things connected into Teams, and as we built these products into Teams as well. So the structure we have, we also have a Teams connector here, and we have Teams on top of it too, but goes through the same interface. And we were able to get the benefit and value of it. So this is enterprise data journey. We import the data from all the sources. Things are stored as entities or tables. CDM is used for metadata. And we have a data preparation tool, which is very important. So when there is garbage in and garbage out otherwise. So we clean up the data and we quarantine data. If the data is not valid, it's not clean, it's empty, it's invalid data, we have something called a discarded entity, which basically pushes data into a quarantine area. So if you for example, if you import a table and then we look at that table and we clean up the table and the things we cannot do anything with, it's like a virus scanner. And we push that records into another table, like table underscore discarded. And that discarded table has the rows that are not clean. And we will not be moving that data into for further processing. So with Delta, since you can time travel, you have ACID properties, you can always have the ability to go back and forth and to a point in time to do processing. Or you can say, well, give me the data that was processed yesterday. So you can time travel. And also it supports schema evolution, which means that, well, today's schema is this, and tomorrow I added 3 more columns, deleted 2 more columns, I made changes to the data type, here's a new schema. So it supports automatic schema evolution. But if you go back in time, you go back to older schema. So it allows you to time travel with schema evolution, which is incredibly powerful. So in our match process, we match records and create what we call as profiles, which is a 360-degree view of customers. That's our entire product does. The profile entity is also an open source from Microsoft, so as part of CDM. All this data is stored in Delta Lakehouse when the CDM is actually stored. The CDM meta store is actually, the data is stored in the Lakehouse. CDM Metastore stores the schema information. So why you need a persistent ID? One of the problems that we have is the so-called ID. So what is a unique identifier or primary key when it comes to data integration? We got to figure that out. It's a fairly complex problem, but clustering and a bunch of graph analytics involved. So we use graph frames or GraphX on top of databricks to do all this kind of work. But there are other solutions for graph. You can use Cosmos, Neo4j, and other products. For example, for us, we have a cluster that represents a real-world person or organization with a set of attributes, and we need a stable set of IDs to represent those people. And these things will combine, evolve, and get deleted as people change. So like somebody changed their address, they got married, they moved, whatever those are. So we had to figure out if it's the same person or not. And then we use Power Automate, and we have a Power BI connector coming very, very soon. So we have the Power Automate and Teams connectors already published. It is available on Microsoft, their Microsoft Power Platforms connector page. So we have those certified and certified and available right now. So it says it's in preview, but that's the process the Power Platform team goes through. So with that, I will stop here. Any questions? I think there was a bunch of chat on the. I will kind of see if I can.
We are just chatting it up. If there
All
are any
right.
questions that come up, I will pitch them over to you, whether it's me, Bastion, or Jeremy.
All right. Okay.
Everybody's just throwing documentation and talking about Dataverse.
What about
Oh.
what about that one from Donald? Does anyone really use CDM
Yeah.
except Dynamics?
Yeah. So can you you can only really use CDM with Dynamics? You think? Yeah, we are using it outside of Dynamics. We are not using Dynamics, but I understand the question and the problem there. Microsoft kind of implemented their own storage infrastructure and it didn't really scale well. So that essentially became, yeah, the problem. So I think Jamie is right where database is included in the Power Platform Premium. Yeah. So the answer, technical answer is yes, but I think once they get around the storage infrastructure issues, I think they will. But Delta, so you can use it anywhere you want, truly in Power Platform. So essentially, we are using CDM in Power Platform through our connector. Actually, use it, but we use it only for the metadata store as a metadata engine, not as a storage engine.
So just to help clarify, Tyson, so my understanding is you can't buy Dataverse on its own as a storage thing. You can only buy either, it just like comes with a Dynamics license or like Jamie mentioned, a Power Platform Premium license.
Right.
And then, also saying, the scaled down version of Dataverse with Team is there, but that's just if you're using, if you have Teams and you have M365, Dataverse is just there as that back end. You can't buy it as a separate one-off thing.
Right. Think about it. I'll go back to my PowerPoint. I will show you what they have done with Dataverse. So if you can see my screen. So think about this. The data is sitting in whatever storage infrastructure you have, right? So this could be ADLS Gen 2 or SQL or whatever. And Dataverse is their compute engine, which is built, by the way, in Databricks. It's actually a Spark engine. So while they've been doing this is so now we are using what are called SQL on demand, which is a built-in automated scale engine with SQL where you don't have to run a data SQL server cluster. So Synapse has Spark and SQL on demand. So essentially what the team has been doing is I can give technically the storage infrastructure almost for free, but I have to charge for compute. So, and they're packaging Dataverse compute. It was called Common Data Service before. It's a Spark engine. So it is licensed now into Power Platform Premium, Dynamics, and then Teams, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So in our implementation, we don't use Dataverse at all. We replace Dataverse with Databricks or SQL on demand. So you have different options. So your data, the beauty of it is that the underlying data, you can access it in multiple ways. So you don't necessarily have to use the same engine. So any other questions?
But one more, just for clarity's sake. So you're instead of Dataverse, you're using Data Lake or the Data Lake, Delta Lake, and Databricks. But can you still use the common data model? You had mentioned the CDM at one point.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, because it's an open source thing, right?
Yes.
And that's what okay, cool. Just so we're connecting all the dots.
Yes, it totally makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. I think for us, it was more how to enable Power Platform than figuring out the compute engine. So that's what we focused on. It's like the value Power Platform and Power BI can deliver to a business user, it's just tremendous. And then we couldn't as a software company, we can't build those things. It will take us like 100 years, to build stuff that it can do already, right? Or Power BI or Power Platform can do. But we can make the data clean and organized and structured. So Power Platform can do wonderful things, right? So that was the goal. Any other questions? Yeah, I think somebody answered that. So Power Platform is all schema. Okay, got it. Exactly. Now we'll kind of show a quick demo also.
You might have to share your screen again if you're trying.
Yeah, I'm going to.
Okay, great.
Kind of switch here.
There's a lot happening behind the hood, huh?
Yeah.
a lot.
Some gymnastics, you know,
Yeah.
just a little bit, some cartwheels, some flips.
You make my Power Query look pretty weak.
The idea, I mean, just the fact is, and to your point that, you know, I think the future of products and software as a service, you know, being able to have the extensibility of Power Platform is so key, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yes, that's the. I can't think of a world where you know, it's hard for me to imagine that, you know, I can go without it. You know, it's going to be very difficult for me, you know, to run a business trying to hire professional developers to solve some basic problems, right? You know, that's a hard part. Have you guys been using Power Automate Desktop at all? Anyone?
Aye.
Not yet.
How's it? What do you think about it? Is it working well?
Yeah, I think it is. You know, they're going the Power BI route, Power BI Desktop. You know, where you have the ability to really drive traffic, or kind of with the online version, you're going back and forth between the data. So where with the desktop, you can offload it quite a lot. So your performance is significantly better. And when you're developing, you need that level of performance. Otherwise, clicking around and waiting the browser to respond, you know,
Totally,
it just,
totally.
yeah. So I will log in. So I'm going to share my screen here. Do a little bit of show and tell. Hey, Sandeep, is Jay on yet?
I don't think so.
Yeah, no problem. Try to take care of it. I'll give you guys some examples here. So one of them is if you go to, since we are all familiar with Power Platform, so you go to connectors. What we did is we built a connector, and you can search for SkyPoint there, and you will see your connector. And obviously, it says preview. This is Microsoft's process to say, well, this is the progression process. And we can update this anytime we want, and then its documentation goes on and say what it can do. We have a few actions on it. Get entities. You know, entities are tables. Item from an entity is an individual row from a specific table. Items is a group of them. So we can keep updating it for all the CRUD methods. Then we have some triggers when data flow refresh. Data flow, this data, the term data flow comes from the Power BI data flow world, where it's a import or an export function from a source of data coming down. So what you essentially do is inside our platform here, as you can see some of the entities, this data sits in, you know, in Data Lake. So this campaigns has 103 million records in it. So this is, you know, it was instantaneous. If you can see, the attributes of this data came in so quickly. And then, so you have a preview of this data, very responsive. So we snapshot this into Cosmos, and then the actual data. This is pulling all records in a paginated form from 100 million records out of Delta into a UI. So I'll show a similar view on the on Power Automate too. So as you can see, we pull 1 to 25 of over 103 million into the UI. So essentially, the response times is about a second or so in very large data sets. So I can change the number of, you know, items per page, it is basically going to pull the next page. So this is no offlining. This is directly interacting with the query engine with a very large record set. So we can even move to 1 billion rows for this one individual table and give acceptable performance. So it's giving this basically you're looking at BI and AI, right? So we are building data science models based on this type of data set as zero copy. There's no copies of the data anywhere else, directly coming from the source, single source. It's sitting in Parquet, and the query I did, it doesn't use the Delta engine. It is on Databricks. Sandeep, is that 8.0? This Delta jobs.
Yes, it is in Databricks 8.0, Spark 3.
Yeah, Spark 3 8.0 is running the engine. And this is the performance here. So when it comes to flows, one of the things that we add is like I have a simple flow here called profile testing. So I could go in here, so I'm sending an email. So basically, these are the connectors. I have access to all of this. In essence, these connectors have the access elements. So if I want to add this stuff, I can go and add more things into it, edit these flows. So,
It isn't Jay's on. He has a few demo flows that he can show us.
oh, he's on. Okay, Jay, do you mind taking over?
Yeah, sure. Hey everyone, this is Jay.
Okay. Go ahead, Jay.
Oh, may have to make you a presenter. Let me come on.
Yeah, so if you can make Jay a presenter, that'll be great. Sorry if I didn't screw up your flows.
The power is yours, Jay. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you guys. Let me know when you guys are able to see my screen.
Yeah, looks good.
Yeah, okay. So basically, Power Automate can be used in a lot of ways. So what I am gonna show you is some of the basic use cases that we or other guys use in order to give a particular automation to certain processes. So we basically have few types of flows that we do. So one of them is basically manually triggering a flow. They can be automated flows as well from time to time. So just to start with the flow, we can do that. Post that, we have our connectors inside the Power Automate. So we can use our Power Automate as well. So how we do it, we just click on the add action button and we search for SkyPoint. And if you see that, we have the connectors here. So we have 3 different connectors. So whatever is present in our instance in our platform, I'll just switch over to the instance that I've created to show you the demo. So what happens is whatever data has been prepared and staged, and the profiles that have been created on our platform can be easily accessible to these using these connectors. And whatever performances, whatever customers you need to require, whichever conditions you need to put on, you can do these using these actions and triggers and everything. So what I have prepared here is, in the one of the so I have the tenant name as the SkyPoint Group LLC. I justify the development instance, and there is an entity name. So in entity name, I'll just show you that I just created an audience that I just wanted all the customers who were from Albuquerque. So I can see here that the number of members are 15. So my main goal was to create an automated email flow so that I could reach out to all the customers in Albuquerque and give them a welcome email. So I can do that here by creating creating an audience from our platform and then switching over to the Power Automate and then combining all the customers from Albuquerque and then sending them an email one by one so that everyone can get a very sweetie email regarding a welcome email. So there's that. We can provide a self email as well, whatever we like, whether it can be a automated text email or a HTTP driven document, anything we can pass on. So the main crisp here is we just need to pass the JSON file that we are getting from the outer body from the connector that we are using of SkyPoint. That is it. And post that we can probably use all the strings that we are getting from the parse JSON. So I'll just show you what all entities we are getting. So as you can see in the top that primary key is shown here, primary email, sorry. So instead of, so for now I'm sending it to myself, but if you want, we basically can just replace it with the primary email of that particular person, and that will come in a loop, and all the person in that particular audiences, like just I showed you, there were 15 members. So all the email addresses will come one by one in the to section, and they'll be getting all these emails one by one in an automated flow. So that is one use case, and the other use case is just give me a second. Yeah. So there are many a times when we want to greet our loyal customers regarding whatever transactions they have made, or they have been frequent in their buying regarding with us. So we can also probably do that by many a times we actually store the reward points for every customers, right? So what we can do is we can create a threshold out of it, and we can create a threshold out of it by saying that if the reward points are basically more than a particular value, then we can probably call them a loyal customers. So I have a condition regarding here, and I'll just show it to you. So if the profiles are basically greater than 180, this is just a demo data that I've taken. So if this is more than 180, then we can probably call them a loyal customer, and then probably we can choose this audience, and then we can probably move on to the to sending them some automated emails regarding thank you for being with us, and or whatever automated greeting card you want to send them. Also, there is another way which is far more easy way to get those conditions applied into the Power Automate. So we have these conditions connector as well, just like the Power connector for our platform, and including the loop. So there are a lot of connectors that we can use in order to do the data operations. So when we have fetched the all the data from a particular audience or a profile from our SkyPoint cloud, we can basically move on to parsing the JSON, and we can have all the entities that we have. So like is lead. So there are a lot of gender and everything. We have a lot of entities right there. Post that we can probably get an input out of it, and then we can create a condition, and then if it's a true thing, then we can probably send an email. So I just sent an email to myself, so I must have got it. I'll just show it to you. Just give me a second. Yeah. So something like that. It actually depends on you whether you want to how you want to present it, and whether you want to attach a file or not. All the functionality is available with the Power Automate, and you can do that as well. Yep.
So all the fields that Jay is showing, like EastLead, primary email, they're all CDM, standard. So you can rely on those, and they're all labeled and mapped to a common standard. So that's a value of CDM we are getting, is that we don't need to worry about, what primary email is. So we have a standard field we can refer to. So we mapped all of this data into the common data model, and now Power Automate can do so many things. This is why it's very hard for us to keep up with what Power Automate can possibly do. And we don't have to build any of these capabilities inside our product. So we can stay focused as a SaaS company on building a great customer data platform, and stay out of, workflow automation or any of this stuff, that Power Platform or Power BI is able to do. So basically, this is bringing in. I don't know if you've been watching Ignite. I think they call it as professional developers, plus as a function of. So the sum of what professional developers can do like it's the guys who are building like SkyPoint platform, and then citizen developers who are in our customers or others who can build Power Automate things. The combination is so powerful. It's basically, it's basically 1 + 1 = 4 kind of effect, where you're multiplying the capabilities of the overall solution by having Power Platform and Power BI in place. So that is essentially the value that we are seeing as a Microsoft Gold partner, as an ISV, bringing a product to the table, and Microsoft's giving us a lot in terms of enabling the solution building to our clients, right? So there could be standardization, and all of this data that you're seeing, it actually comes from Delta. So yeah, there's a lot going on under the hood, but from on the surface, somebody sitting in and building a flow, they don't care about the detail. They just connect to their tenant, they go to their table, say, here it's what I need to do, build my flows. Earlier, we have competitors who have competitive products. They have clobbered their entire product with Power Automate-like functionality built in. It's just so messy. You can't do anything. Half of the things doesn't work. They have their own language. It's just so hard to implement a solution. So now we were able to stay out of this, and we also have AI models, which is using actual machine learning. We push those models out and say, okay, whether it could be customer lifetime value, product recommendations, could be subscription churn, churn prediction models. All of these things are available from our product, but it shows up as a entity. So actually, Jay, if you click on the entity, I don't know if you have created any of the predictive models, right?
No, for AI Builder, right?
Yeah, not
Yeah,
in the
I haven't in this.
Yeah, and even in our platform, right?
Okay.
You can expose them as, I don't know if you have any, but you can expose them as entities out, right? So a lot of possibilities.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love the way that's all structured right there. You're really able to leverage a whole ton out of it. And as you say, can keep out of the other stuff, right? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jay, can you go to Power Automate again on the, yeah, so you go to the connectors on the left. Connectors, yeah. The array of connectors now, they're coming up. We used to be like a recently added connector. If you scroll down a little bit, I don't know how far down we are now. These guys are so fast adding new connectors, and we kind of got pushed down.
Yeah. I'm sure it still felt really. You must have been really proud when you saw your little icon pop up there.
Yeah,
I know. I sure would be. Yeah.
It was on the first page, and now it is like we got pushed down.
Oh.
Now we went alphabetical, I think.
You got to change your name to start with an A.
Yeah, I know.
Double A's.
Yeah. And
At least it's not blue. It sticks out.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So the enormity of support the Power Platform is getting is quite a lot from the ISV community, which is going to empower the product. So if you are investing in, like if you're training, like if you walk into an organization, they are questioning, like, should I train my, my Power users on Power Platform or not, or Power BI, right? The first thing is like you have to provide training and some level of education before you jump right in. So we've been kind of calling upon CSG and say, hey, we had a client come in and it's like, we need help with this, and it's like, hey, here's CSG, this is their forte, we'll provide you the data platform, but talk to CSG to build at least a few of your Power Automate's flows. And then once you get familiar with it, then you can do your own. But don't try to jump in, try to figure this out, because there's so much, and then get overwhelmed and then give up, right? It's like, oh, this is too complex, right? Yeah.
You just need a little helping hand for a little bit, but
that's right.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and then another value that we have is once you have an approved connector in the Power Platform, it's completely JSON driven, so we can update our APIs and provide an updated JSON. It automatically updates the documentation. There's a compiler that pushes this documentation out. This team has done a wonderful job thinking through all of this stuff, how to bring ISVs on board, how to bring partners on board, how to connect a fairly complex backend, with Delta Lake, into Power Platform, and then enable, business use cases around it, and fully single sign-on. I don't know if you saw any of the details with sign-ons. We're fully integrated to Azure AD. It connects, it validates all the access credentials. So we do all of those checkings to make sure, who has their access to the right data. So we make sure that also is happening. So it's security controlled. So this is the power of this platform, and we are so excited to be part of this. And from the beginning, so as soon as our Power BI connector comes up, that is our next touch point, because we have customers literally knocking on our doors right now to, where is the Power BI connector? So it's like one of the most highly wanted, like marked things right now. So, and we didn't see that for Power Automate in the beginning. Now we are seeing for Teams, people are asking for connectors. We have Power Automate connectors. Obviously, popularity wise is still Power BI, no question about it. Now Power Apps and Power Automate are literally, coming up to speed, and getting a lot of popularity.
So, but they could still connect to your thing with a ODBC right now, right?
Yes, they can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which
That's
I think I've used that once.
Yeah.
In all my Power BI.
Yeah, with Power BI, it was in preview. So now Databricks connector is actually GA'd. So you can directly connect Power BI to through Databricks with ODBC. But ODBC is not the fastest protocol when it comes to network traffic. So that's why we opted not to use ODBC, because we are using gRPC in the backend, which is a fast. That's what Chrome operates. I think a few of the other faster networking. So so we use that because we can get higher performance and throughput out of it. But ODBC is so clean and easy to use, So to start off, ODBC is as good as anything, So you can get started with it, and then you can move to gRPC whenever you. But end of the day, the Databricks backend or Synapse backend, supports this protocol, the faster, interface.
Very cool.
Yeah. So anything else, Jay, you want to add or show?
Yeah, I think that's it. Just that, I combine the audience creation here as well with the flow. So if you have anything else, we can obviously cover that as well.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jay. So
Yeah.
if anyone in the group has any questions or need more details on any of the stuff, whether it could be Power Automate or Delta or Lakehouse, I mean, we can definitely support you and give, more info on it. Feel free to do so. Yeah. So that's all we have.
Cool.
Yes,
Well, thank you so much to the three of you, Sandeep, Thiessen, and Jay. Thank you so much for coming on.